Mom's message hit hard. We changed all the locks and the gate. No way back. I didn't lose my family in an explosion. There was no fight, no shouting, no slammed doors echoing down some dramatic hallway. I lost them at 8:14 a.m. With one message. We changed all the locks and the gate code. We no longer trust you. No greeting, no explanation, just cold punctuation. Like a company memo announcing a layoff. Except this time, the position being eliminated was daughter. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. The light from my phone was harsh against the soft blue morning. The air felt still, the kind of stillness right before a storm shifts direction. I read the message again, slowly. Not because I didn't understand, but because some quiet, buried part of me always knew this day would come. Love had moved out of that house a long time ago. All that remained were obligations dressed up as gratitude. I opened my banking app. The next payment sat there, waiting. $4,800. Mortgage, utilities, Wi-Fi, property tax. All for a house I didn't live in. A house I now couldn't even enter. I tapped cancel. And in that one movement, quiet, unremarkable, I felt something heavy shift. The refrigerator hummed. A dog barked in the courtyard. The coffee maker dripped like a metronome, steady and indifferent. For the first time in years, silence belonged to me. This story doesn't begin with cruelty. It begins with kindness, weaponized. I was 27 when my dad lost his job. Mom called, voice trembling in that perfect, practiced way. Just until he's back on his feet, she said. And I believed her. 1 month turned into 4 years. Mortgage payments, roof repairs, insurance, internet bills, Lindsay's emergency credit card. I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the funding, and they got comfortable. The first crack appeared on Facebook. I was waiting for a grocery pickup when the algorithm served me the photo like a slap. My parents and my sister Lindsay stood on the front porch of the house I paid for. Smiling, glowing. Mom holding a home sweet home sign like she'd earned it. The caption said, "So proud of our daughter Lindsay for building a future we can all share. This home is in the right hands." No tag, no mention. Just hearts and clapping emojis from relatives who believed the fairy tale. I stared at their faces until the world around me blurred. That house had eaten 4 years of my life. And in their story, I didn't even exist. The second crack came in a customer service voice too cheerful to be delivering betrayal. "Primary contact is still you, Ms. Robinette," the banker said, "but there was a request last week to change that to Miss Lindsay Carson." My mortgage, her name, their house. The third crack wasn't hidden at all. $2,400 disappeared from my account. Lindsay's emergency visa. Me. "Did you use my card again?" Lindsay. "Don't make it a thing, Suze. Kids needed shoes. We're still sharing that one, right?" We weren't. Minutes later, Mom followed. "Honey, Lindsay's going through so much. Let's not start a war over a few dollars." A few dollars. It wasn't about the money. It was about worth. When Lindsay needed something, it was a crisis. When I did, it was inconvenient. That night, the group chat name changed to Family Circle. Someone posted a meme. A cartoon man handing over his wallet. Caption, "Big sponsor energy." They tagged me. Dad replied, "Only if she names her next cat after the bank." Laughter, emojis, silence from me. I left the chat. They added me back. I left again. This time, I blocked them all. It felt small, but it was the first real boundary I'd drawn in years. The full break came on a quiet afternoon. I was mowing their backyard, because of course I was. "No point hiring someone when you're already here," Dad always said. I shut off the mower to grab some water, and through the open kitchen window I heard them. Lindsay first, laughing like someone who'd already won. "Did you see her face when Aunt Karen asked about the deed? She looked like a guest waiting to be served. Mom's laugh followed. Soft, satisfied. It's nearly done. Once the paperwork clears, what can she say? She insisted on putting the mortgage in her name, her problem. Then Lindsay again, breezy as ever. Honestly, it's better this way. She's always been distant, a guest with a wallet. And then, Mom. The final cut. She's not family anymore. She's a sponsor. I didn't drop the bottle. I didn't cry. I just stood there, sweat on my skin, water dripping down my wrist, their words wrapping around my ribs and clicking something shut inside me. This morning's message wasn't a betrayal. It was just a headline for a story they'd already been writing. I walked through that house one last time. The porch I paid to fix. The doorbell I installed. The curtains bought with my card. Not a home. Just a ledger wearing wallpaper. When I got back to my apartment, I pulled out an old notebook. Not a plan, just instinct. Line by line, I wrote down everything I'd paid for. Mortgage, utilities, repairs, groceries, Lindsay's card, 4 years, pages filled fast, numbers don't lie, people do. By midnight, the ledger was complete, and so was I. I looked around my living room, the thrifted lamp, the scuffed wooden table, the stubborn plant I'd somehow kept alive. None of it required me to earn my right to exist. They'd changed the locks, but I'd already found the door. The thing about clarity, it doesn't arrive with fanfare. It lands quietly, like dust settling after a collapse you didn't even know had already happened. The morning after the lockout, my phone buzzed over and over again. Missed calls, texts. Nothing from them directly, of course, just the echo of extended relatives playing messenger. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. Your mom's upset, Susan. Don't do anything drastic. Drastic. That word always lives in the mouths of people who benefit from your silence. I didn't answer any of them. I made coffee, opened the notebook I'd started the night before, and began to write in columns. Date, amount, reason, mortgage, property tax, roof, internet, groceries, Lindsay's emergencies that somehow happened on schedule. Every dollar I'd ever sent into that black hole they called family. The pen didn't shake, my breath didn't quicken. It felt clean, cold, almost mathematical. People lie, numbers don't. By noon, the notebook was full. It wasn't just the total that stunned me. It was the shape of it. 4 years of my life mapped out in ink. Each number a bruise I'd ignored. Somewhere in the middle of those pages, I found the moment the generosity turned into servitude. I didn't realize I'd started crying until a drop of water smeared the ink near the word roof. I laughed, quietly. Not out of sadness, out of recognition. I wasn't a daughter. I was an account. The first message from Mom finally arrived that afternoon. Not a call, a text. Honey, don't let one emotional moment ruin everything. We're still family. I read it slowly. The we're still family part wasn't about love. It was about leverage. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, Lindsay texted. You're making this bigger than it is. Mom's freaking out. Just talk to her. Talk. The family cure-all. Talk meant me listening, them rewriting the story, and then me paying again. I didn't reply to her either. Instead, I pulled my laptop closer. I opened my banking history, scrolled through years of transactions, and started downloading statements. Month after month. Year after year. The sound of the printer filled the silence like steady breathing. Sheets stacked into a clean, quiet pile. I underlined dates, circled totals, highlighted Lindsay's withdrawals. I wasn't building a weapon. I was building proof. For the first time, the power was shifting. That evening, Grandpa called. He never called. He preferred to sit on his porch and let the world come to him. His voice was slow, like someone who measures his words before letting them escape. You okay, kid? I'm fine, I said. And for the first time in a long time. I meant it. He exhaled. They always push too far. I told your father once. If you keep pulling from the same well, one day it'll run dry. He laughed. He's not laughing now, I said softly. Grandpa chuckled. Good. Maybe now he'll learn to drink his own water. It was the kind of brutal wisdom only old men who've lived through their own storms can offer. Then he added quieter. Don't flinch, Susan. The moment you stop paying, you stop being controllable. Later that night, I found myself standing in front of my bathroom mirror. Not staring at my face exactly, staring at what wasn't there. The girl who used to explain herself. The daughter who'd bend until it hurt. She was gone. What stared back at me was someone quieter, sharper, and honestly, a little dangerous. The next morning, a white envelope slid under my apartment door. No return address, just a glossy invitation. Please join us in celebrating Elizabeth Carson's 60th birthday. My mother's name, emerald ink, gold trim. A quote at the bottom in cursive, "A house is not a home without family." I laughed out loud. It wasn't bitterness. It was the absurdity of it. That house was built on my deposits. Every wall in it had my name written in invisible ink. I pinned the invitation to my fridge, right above the ledger. Not as a reminder of them, as a countdown. Over the next few days, the silence between us became a battlefield. Mom didn't text again. Lindsay didn't call. But cousins started showing up in my inbox like messengers carrying someone else's fear. They're worried about you. Mom's been crying. Lindsay says you're being unfair. Unfair. That word, too, only belongs to people who've been eating from your plate so long they think it's theirs. I spent my nights at the kitchen table with a highlighter in one hand and black coffee in the other. Mortgage, $230,400. Roof repairs, $2,500. Utilities, groceries, and 100 emergencies, more than I ever cared to count. Every number tightened my spine a little more. I backed up every text, every transaction, every message. I even found the audio clip, the one my phone had accidentally recorded when I overheard them through the kitchen window. She's not family anymore. She's a sponsor. Hearing it again didn't hurt. It confirmed I hadn't imagined it. And in war, clarity is better than comfort. On the third day, Dad called. Not Mom, not Lindsay. Dad. His voice was already tired, like a man rehearsing a speech he didn't believe in. You're making your mother sick. She's crying every day. Are you happy? No, I said. But I'm awake. This isn't how families work. No, I answered. This is exactly how ours worked. I just stopped playing my part. There was silence. Then he said the thing that told me everything I needed to know. You were always different, cold. He meant uncontrollable. He meant not useful anymore. That's because I was busy keeping this family from collapsing, I said. And none of you ever noticed. He hung up. Not even a goodbye. The night before the party, I set everything out on the table. Neatly stacked invoices, highlighted transactions, the audio file on a small USB drive. Years of quiet obedience, distilled into evidence. I didn't feel nervous. I felt steady. For 4 years, they'd told me what family was supposed to look like. On that night, I decided to show them what truth looked like. I poured a glass of water, leaned against the window, and watched the city lights flicker. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one waiting for permission. I wasn't chasing their love. I was done being the well they drank from. I was ready to become the storm they didn't see coming. And as I turned off the kitchen light, the invitation on the fridge caught the last bit of glow. Gold letters. A house is not a home without family. I whispered to the empty room. Then it was never a home. The night before the party, sleep never came. Not because I was afraid, because for the first time in years I wasn't. The evidence sat on my kitchen table like a quiet army. Invoices, bank statements, texts, a USB drive no bigger than a thumbnail, holding the moment they called me their sponsor. I watched the city outside my window, streetlights blinking like slow heartbeats. And I knew Tomorrow wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. I arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. The kind of late that makes a room turn and notice. The venue looked exactly the way my mother would have wanted it. Emerald and gold everywhere, the illusion of class wrapped in rented fabric. A banner hung across the back wall in looping script. Happy 60th Elizabeth. When I walked through the doors, I felt the ripple, whispers, pauses, the sound of people pretending nothing's wrong. Lindsay froze for half a second, then plastered on the smile she wears like armor. I didn't return it. I walked to the back of the room, found an empty chair, and sat. Quiet, present, unapologetic. The slideshow began. Childhood photos, vacations, family holidays, a carefully curated fantasy of warmth. And then the house, the porch, the home sweet home sign. Applause filled the room as my mother narrated into the mic. Built with love, she said, and passed down with purpose. I almost laughed. Love didn't build that house. Direct deposit did. Then Lindsay took the microphone. She was glowing, the golden child, the responsible daughter in everyone else's story. This home represents strength, sacrifice, what it means to be a family. Applause again. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin like she'd earned the right to cry. That was the moment. The one where silence stops being grace and starts being consent. I stood. The sound of my chair sliding back cut through the chatter. Forks stilled, heads turned. I walked to the front. Not too fast, not too slow, just steady. I wasn't planning to speak, I began. My voice was calm, flat, dangerous. But since we're talking about legacy, let's talk about what it costs. I held up the USB drive between my fingers. Tiny, weightless, heavy. Could someone plug this in for me? A cousin stepped up, curious. A few clicks later, the projector switched from family smiles to cold audio. The recording played. A hum at first, then my mother's voice. She's not family anymore, she's a sponsor. The words filled the room like a match dropped in gasoline. Someone gasped. A glass cracked against tile. I didn't look at her. I just clicked to the next file. The family chat, the meme, big sponsor energy, my father's joke, the laughter, the tags, projected 20 feet wide. Then, the spreadsheet. 4 years. Line after line. Mortgage, utilities, insurance. Emergencies. This, I said, is what your legacy cost. Silence. The kind that feels thick enough to touch. Lindsay shot up from her chair, cheeks flushed. Are you serious right now? Dead serious. My father rose next. His voice cracked like an old hinge. You don't come here and humiliate your mother on her birthday. I turned toward him, steady as stone. You want to talk about humiliation, Dad? How about the loan application you filed under my name without telling me? The room shifted. His face fell. No one had expected me to know. Mom finally spoke, voice trembling but sharp underneath. It was a gift, Susan. Families help each other. No, Mom, I said, stepping closer. Families thank each other. Families respect each other. Gifts don't come with silence clauses. The tension in the room was a held breath. All those years of whispered expectations were suddenly on loudspeaker. And then the doors opened. Grandpa walked in, slow, deliberate, leaning on his cane like a man who's seen storms like this before. The crowd parted instinctively. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. He'd always been the only one whose power wasn't borrowed from someone else's wallet. He reached the front, took the microphone from me, and turned to my mother first. You raised a thief, he said softly. Then to my father. And a coward. No one moved. No one breathed. Finally, he turned to me. His voice softened. Susan, I read your message. You were right to stand up for yourself. He paused, then added. Last week, I changed the trust. Lindsay's name is gone. The property, the accounts, they're yours now. The room erupted in whispers. Lindsay's jaw dropped. My mother's face went pale, then red, then pale again. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore. It was a transfer of power. Grandpa handed the mic back to me, turned, and walked out. No explanation, no drama, just truth. I stood there for a long second, heartbeat steady, shoulders loose. I placed the stack of invoices on the gift table next to wrapped presents. "You changed the locks," I said quietly. "But I already changed my future." And then I walked out. No cake, no toasts, no apologies. Just the sound of chairs scraping, whispers chasing me like shadows, and 100 eyes watching the one person they had finally underestimated. That night the messages started. "Mom, you humiliated me in front, Mom. You humiliated me in front of everyone. Dad, you're ungrateful. You'll regret this. Lindsay, you ruined Mom's night." I didn't answer any of them, but one voicemail I saved. Grandpa's voice, calm and low. "Proud of you, kid. You did what needed to be done." I played it once before bed. Then I deleted everything else. The next morning, the sun came through the blinds like it was on my side. Warm, clear, sharp. I made coffee without checking my phone first. A small thing. But in my world, small things meant everything. By the time I finally turned it over, there were dozens of missed calls, voicemails, messages. I ignored all of them. Their story wasn't mine anymore. 2 hours later, one email broke through the noise. Subject line, "Private and confidential. Settlement proposal." Of course, that's how people like them express love, through legal counsel. I opened it slowly. The offer was predictable. Repayment, non-disclosure, hush money dressed as reconciliation. I smiled. My reply, "Full repayment in 72 hours. Or I go public." Then I closed my laptop and poured myself another cup of coffee. They'd always believed I wouldn't fight back. That's the thing about quiet people. They never see the storm until it's already over them. That night I walked outside with nothing in my hands. No ledgers, no numbers, just air. Just space. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to earn my place. I wasn't the ATM in the family story. I wasn't the donor. I was the ending. The day after the party, the world didn't end. No dramatic apologies, no hand-delivered flowers or teary phone calls. Just silence. A silence that didn't ache. A silence that finally belonged to me. I woke up before the sun, brewed coffee, and sat by the window. For the first time in years, there was no list forming in my head. No bills I needed to cover, no fires to put out. My family's chaos wasn't my problem anymore. The messages kept coming. Mom's voice shaking with rage, Dad's texts full of threats, Lindsay's passive-aggressive pleas wrapped in fake softness. I didn't respond to a single one. Then an email pinged. Incoming wire transfer. $211,523.84. No sender name, just a number. My number. The cost of silence. The cost of the years they'd mistaken for loyalty. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't love. It was proof. I sent one short reply to their lawyer. Transaction received. No further contact necessary. Then I deleted the thread. Not out of anger, out of choice. That weekend I did nothing. Not the kind of nothing that hides from pain. The kind that tastes like oxygen after you've been holding your breath too long. I cleaned my apartment. I rearranged the shelves. I bought a bouquet of cheap daisies just because I could. The label on the candle I lit read Ocean Calm. I smiled at the irony. On the third day, Dad called. For a moment, I almost didn't pick up. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. "Are you happy now?" he said. His voice wasn't sad. It was wounded pride wearing anger as armor. "Your mother's been crying non-stop." "Maybe she should have thought about that before calling me a sponsor," I said softly. "You embarrassed this family." "No," I replied. "You embarrassed yourselves." I just turned the volume up. There was silence. Then he said the thing that used to keep me up at night. "You were always different. Cold. You never knew how to be part of this family." I almost laughed. That word again. Different. It was never an insult. It was just their way of saying I stopped being controllable. I was busy keeping the roof from collapsing, I said. And you were busy pretending you built it. He hung up. No goodbye. Just a deadline in his silence. But this time I didn't flinch. That night, Grandpa called. He didn't talk long. He never did. They're fuming, he said, almost amused. I didn't want it to get this messy. Truth always looks messy when it finally steps into the light. Don't flinch, Susan. You earned your peace. Then softer. You just stopped consenting. When the call ended, I sat in the dark with the city humming outside. His words stayed with me like a small, steady lantern. 72 hours after the wire hit, the noise faded, the calls slowed, the messages dried up. Then came the strangest thing of all. Quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel like something missing. The kind that feels like a beginning. A week later, I drove to Grandpa's house. His porch was as still as it had always been. He was already outside, rocking gently, tea in hand. Took you long enough, he said. I didn't know if you wanted company. Wanted? Maybe not. But I knew you'd come. I sat next to him. The late afternoon light turned everything gold. We didn't speak for a while, and that was the beauty of it. Finally, he said, Your father came here yesterday. Let me guess, I said. He wasn't happy. Grandpa chuckled. Unhappy people rarely are. Did you reconsider? I asked. No, he said simply. Legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you earn. I stared at my hands, tracing invisible lines. I didn't mean to make a scene. You didn't make a scene, Susan. You told the truth. People who live on lies always think truth is drama. His words didn't feel like comfort. They felt like instruction. Do you think they'll ever forgive me? Forgiveness requires accountability, he said. And they haven't earned it. The next weeks were quiet in ways I'd never experienced. No frantic calls, no last-minute transfers, no late-night guilt. I started running in the mornings again. No phone, no noise. Just the sound of my feet and my breath keeping time. People think healing is fireworks. It's not. It's grocery lists and sunlight through the blinds. It's learning how to live when no one's demanding pieces of you. One afternoon, I got a photo of the house I grew up in. Overgrown yard, empty windows, and a note in my mother's handwriting. We miss you. Please come home. I didn't. Home wasn't safe anymore. A month later, I moved to a small apartment with no ghosts. Daniel texted after the story went viral. Looks like you finally stopped being their safety net. He was right. I had. Life grew quieter, realer. For once, I wasn't on the outside looking in. I stopped confusing sacrifice with love. Family without respect is just chaos. Dad's bitter message came weeks later. I deleted it. Silence was my choice now. When people ask why I'm distant, I say, I stopped mistaking access for love. They changed the locks. I changed my life. Freedom cost me 211,723.84 euros. And 4 years. But it bought me mornings without guilt, silence without ache, and a future that's mine.